Welcome back to The Piping Show for our 21st episode, coming to you today from our satellite location in the West End at Otago Street. I'm Andrew Bova, and I have the pleasure of being your host today, and I will be joined for our interview by Stephen Blake, who is the director of the National Youth Pipe Band of Scotland. Stephen has a number of accolades under his belt. Many of you probably know him as the piper in Rura, as well as being a piper in Trist. He's also been involved with composing, arranging, and other performance opportunities, including quite a bit of film and television, most recently playing for Hans Zimmer's score on the film Dune. But before we go to Stephen, let's go now to Helen Urquhart with today's news.
On the 1st of January, the 150th anniversary event of the Waipu Highland Games took place in New Zealand. This is the first major solo piping contest of the summer. The overall winner was Greg Wilson, with Stuart Easton winning the Helen McGregor Memorial Trophy. On the 13th of January, the Winter Storm Professional Contest took place. The gold medal was won by Andrew Carlisle. This was the 20th anniversary of Winter Storm, and it was great to see it back after a hiatus during the pandemic. On the 14th of January, the first Competition League for Amateur Solo Pipers event of 2023 took place at the National Piping Centre at Otago Street. The Grade 1 winner was Eddie Boland, the Grade 2 winner was Jamie Gallagher, and the Grade 3 winner was Grant Walker. The next event for the class takes place on the 11th of February, with registrations closing this Sunday, the 22nd of January. You can find out more at www.theclasp.co.uk. Coming up this weekend, on the 21st of January, is the Bagpipe Association of Germany's winter competition in the Altes Gymnasium, Bremen. Spectators are welcome, and you can find out more information at www.wintercompetition.de. From the 26th to 29th of January, during Celtic Connections, which starts this Thursday, the 19th of January, we will be hosting the Pipers' Try Sessions, which are 4 days of workshops and sessions for bellows pipers and whistle players. If you would like to find out more and register to take part, you can do so at our website, www.thepipingcentre.co.uk/learn. We were shocked and saddened to hear BBC Scotland's Pipeline programme may be cancelled, along with several other niche programmes, including Jazz Hour and its classical music programming. A petition has reached nearly 6,000 signatures already, and you can find it online at www.bagpipe.news. We would ask that you share and sign this petition to make sure that it reaches pipers across the world to show our support for this programming.
Hello there, and welcome to the first history segment of The Piping Show for 2023. I hope you all had a relaxing and enjoyable holiday. For this history segment, we're of course going to take a look back, but not as far back as we usually do. I thought today we could look back at 2022. Something that we sometimes forget is that history isn't just what happens in the far past, but it's happening around us and we're living it all the time. To that end, today's news is tomorrow's history. So when I came back from my Christmas holiday, I made a small list of the events and occurrences in 2022 that I reckon will be of historical interest to future generations. And I tendered this question to the wider staff here at the National Piping Centre to get their input. We came up with the following short list, which is by no means exhaustive. Number one, likely with a bullet, is the return to in-person competitions. Of course, during the pandemic, we saw the emergence and prevalence of online competitions, which is of great historical importance in and of itself. But that return to in-person competitions, or at least a full slate of in-person competitions, stands in a historical context alongside the last two times that competitions were forced to stop, which were World War I and World War II. Within the competitive world, there were a number of events and achievements this year that are of note. And these are in no particular order. Willie McCallum won a record 9th Glenfiddich Solo Piping Championship. And alongside that, Callum Beaumont won the Pembroke event for his first time. I'm sure that we'll be seeing that again at some point in the near future. Additionally, Nick Hudson became the 4th American citizen to win the gold medal. And the pipe band world, 2022 saw the first ever World Solo Tenor Drumming Championship, which was won by Jordan Bailey of Inverary and District Pipe Band. Similarly from Inverary, Stephen McWhirter won a record 10th in a row World Solo Drumming title, bringing his overall to 11. Now that's not the record for overall wins, but it is the record for consecutive wins. Finally, we of course have to mention Richard Parks winning a record 13th World Pipe Band Championship title as Pipe Major. out with the competitive world, we should note that Roddy McLeod, MBE, and former principal of the National Piping Centre, was awarded a fellowship at the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland for his services to piping. Now, this YouTube show is in some way its own small historical record of what's happening in the piping and drumming world today, with the interviews and Helen's great news segments. And so I would invite our viewers to contribute to this artifact. And in the comments, let us know what you think were the important historical events of 2022. Stephen, thank you very much for being here. I know that with Celtic Connections coming up, you're quite busy to say the least, so appreciate you taking a wee bit of time to come and chat with me today.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So you took on the role of director of the National Youth Pipe Band just before the sort of world exploded, as it were. I'm curious, could you talk a little bit about sort of taking on that role and maybe some of the challenges you faced during the pandemic and how you've got to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it was a very interesting time to step into the Piping Centre and the project because it was July 2020, which was amidst lockdowns and all the rest of it. So even the process, I was actually in Australia when I applied for the job, and by the time I landed, it was maybe a couple of days before the first UK lockdown. And then the interview process was all remote before all of us were, that used to spending our lives on Zoom. And then, to run a youth project during COVID, I think was difficult for anyone in that situation. But yeah, I think to the youth band's credit, the kind of sense of community that we had, and once we worked out the logistics of communicating and working together, I was, quite pleasantly, I was quite proud of how the team overcame the challenges together. And it was also, there was a silver lining to all the disruption in COVID. I think it gave us all a chance to reflect on how things were structured and opportunities for change. We had a change forced upon us, so it let us also choose things that we wanted to change as well. So it was a kind of overhaul, which quite a natural thing to do at the outset of a new kind of team member joining like myself. So it was good. I think the job as well has been really interesting. I think you'd have been totally forgiven for thinking of it as a pipe major job or a teaching job. And I think for me, I was very clear in the outset that that wasn't what I was applying to do. And that director doesn't just make it sound fancy or pretentious, but it actually is. It's a specific job with kind of slightly different responsibilities. So that's been a really fascinating thing to develop and kind of it's been a really fun job, loads of challenges, COVID or not, and a really privileged job as well. I'm totally aware that it's for me anyway, it's unique. I've done a lot of youth music projects before, but never one exactly like this, and it feels like a chance to have contribute towards creative and social kind of evolution of pipe band with the next generation of people that are playing.
Well, I think that and what you said about sort of the change that was forced upon you versus the changes that you opted to make, which is a poetic way of putting that, the youth band has changed quite a lot, not only since you took it over, but also since, the lockdowns and everything.
Absolutely.
And as I understand it, most people not involved with the Piping Centre or directly involved with the youth band will think of the youth band and think of sort of the big concert and those things. But as I understand it, there's sort of three veins that the youth band's involved with. I was wondering, could you maybe tell me and our audience a wee bit about, what is the larger youth band project? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right. We're actually celebrating this is our 20th anniversary year right now. It's also the 20th anniversary of the Youth Music Initiative from Creative Scotland. So we've been lucky to have support from YMI to keep the project going and also connect us with the rest of the creative industry. So as you say, it's 20 years old now, and the project does develop through there. And I think, there's a natural development that takes place there. And I feel like now in our 20th year, one of the things that we've managed to do is formalise some of the themes and values of the project into really structured programmes, which has been, for me, it's been a really exciting time to come into the project. So, I think the youth band has always had an element of developing young players, performing and reaching out to other young people. And so the way that we have looked at that development, performance and outreach is that we've formed 3 strands to our programme. So the obvious one is the ensembles. So we have 3 national bands. We have a senior, development and junior band.
And that junior band has only started in the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think speaks to the size of these bands and the popularity of piping. That I remember when they added hearing about when they added the second band, the development band.
Yeah.
That was a big deal, and now we've had to. Well,
Yeah.
I say had to, but had the opportunity to add a third band.
Oh, exactly. And to be honest, one of my observations when I first took the project was there weren't many kids in the youth band, which seemed odd. So, in terms of the top of the band when I first came in, the quality was undeniable. You've got kids who are in their early 20s and are playing in the top adult bands. So we definitely had that part of the kind of pyramid covered, but I felt like, and it's something we're still striving to do, is always extend our reach and extend the capacity of the project. So the junior band's been a fantastic thing for us, not least of all because it allowed us to really target that 10 to 16-year-old age group. Because that's the thing, it's not just about young people. A 10-year-old player who can develop and is a very good player. They're not a worse player than a 25-year-old who plays in FM or Inverary. It's just the difference is experience. And so us being able to work with those talented young players at that different level and meet them earlier along the road has been really exciting. And it's also been really interesting. Young people through the different stages of the bands, they all have different hang-ups. So we find our junior band is our most adventurous band creatively because they don't think anyone's judging them. They're not aware of like, this is how you do it, this is how you don't do it. So they'll just go for it. They'll try anything. Whereas our senior band, in terms of the sound, it's up a level, but they might be a little bit more reluctant to try something in case, well, what if someone sees me doing this? So that's been really interesting. So the 3 ensembles, that's been great. And as you say, we kind of started that late 2020 into 2021. And then the other strand we have is outreach, which we've kind of we've developed our philosophy on that a little bit. I think before it was more focused on, let's take these good players and connect them with other young people. We still have that as part of what we do, but we really tried to make our outreach program a bit more robust, as in terms of if you come to one of our outreach events, online or in person, it is about the outreach participants. They're the priority, and it's about that experience and kind of offering something unique. We never want to just duplicate or stand on any local toes. We want to do what we can to reinforce, because one of the privileges of running the National Youth Pipe Band in Scotland, as opposed to another National Youth Pipe Band, is that we are kind of in the mecca for piping, and the kind of national infrastructure in terms of tuition is generally absolutely excellent. So we're not here to give kids piping lessons and drumming lessons. We're here to give them a unique experience that develops them, and it kind of fills, if you're teaching, say, pupil base 30 minutes a week and you've got a couple of band practices, you've got priorities and there's only certain things you can achieve in that time. And what we hope we can do is add something different, add something fun, and develop them, kind of broaden their experience as young people. So that's our outreach program. And then the New Horizons program, a bit of a corny title, but titles are hard. So that's all about targeted projects. So it's about projects that have an impact on social and or creative progress in pipe band. And the reason that we talk about those two is that we believe they go hand in hand. We believe the more inclusive of an environment we create, the more ideas we get. It's quite a kind of simple math equation for us. So the project that we've been lucky to kick that strand off with has been our Emerging Composers project, and that's been fantastic. So we've now worked with 10 young people aged 18 to 25, who the brief was basically young people who we wouldn't typically see write work for pipe band, because
Right. Well, after an unexpected visit from our Director of Administration, we're back. You were sharing about the Emerging Composers Project and working with 10 young people who might not have the opportunity to write for pipe bands. So could you continue on talking about that a wee bit?
Absolutely. So the project, we've been through 2 iterations now, but essentially, young people aged 18 to 25. So some of them, play a variety of different instruments, not necessarily pipes and drums. And some of them had quite interesting stories where they were involved with pipe band younger, and then felt a little bit uncomfortable in the environment, or have just kind of, pulled away from it. So it's been a great way to kind of reconnect and make those connections, but also new ones with creative young people. And support young artists, and they've created some really interesting new approaches to a concert pipe band repertoire for us, which is one of our kind of main missions as a project, is to develop new concert repertoire for a concert pipe band. 10 new pieces have came out of that, and we're going to be performing them across, they go across all 3 ensembles. And most of them will be performed at our end of year concert, which is currently scheduled for the 2nd of April. But some
Put it in your diaries, folks.
Exactly. And some of them will be performed. Our senior band has a couple of performances coming up at Celtic Connections.
Oh, right. That's actually a really good segue to the final thing I want to ask you about, which is the upcoming Celtic Connections concerts. Can you share with us a little bit about what the band's involved with and what sort of music might be being played at those concerts?
The band's lucky to be involved in 2 performances at Celtic Connections this year. So firstly, the opening night concert, which is always an amazing kind of spectacle to open the gig. It's got some of the most well-known names in folk music, but we feel really privileged to be able to have our young people go and experience that buzz as well in the main auditorium. So they're actually going to be playing this year. We're working with some featured musical guests who this year were Ross Ainsley and Ali Hutton, and they're going to be playing one of the pieces that they workshopped with them, accompanied by the Celtic Connections Big Band, which I think will be a really unique and great experience for them. So that is on the 19th of January, so very, very soon. Mm-hmm. And then their main gig is they're doing the first half of the annual piping gig at Celtic Connections, which will be on the 4th of February in the main auditorium in the concert hall. And it's a really special event. It's Lauren McDougall's pulled this together, and it's really a celebration of Ian Duncan's contribution to pipe band, which obviously needs no explaining or introduction, and also celebrating a really unique pipe band album, Names and Places, which the Vale obviously created way back when. And we feel really lucky to be involved in it. We've worked a little bit with Lauren and Gus Sicard, who's pulling the drumming together for that. So we've worked up some Vale sets in the youth band's performance, as well as getting involved with some of the sets from the Names and Places album on the thing. So a great experience. And one thing we do try and do in the youth band is we do purposely seek out cutting edge modern music, but we also try and celebrate classic pipe band repertoire. So the senior band this year have focused on the Vale of Atholl as their featured artist in terms of classic repertoire. Our junior band are doing Journey to Skye, which is great fun, especially when you're 10. And the development band are doing an SFU medley, which is sounding great. So
very good. Yeah. Well, it's great to hear that the kids in the band and the young adults in the band are getting such a holistic approach. Getting that experience of learning about the history of pipe bands and the classic repertoire. But also getting to push the boundaries and try new things and see what you can actually do with a pipe band when you're not confined by competitive restraints.
Totally.
Be they from the rule book or from the culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
But with all that coming up, I'm sure that you're eager to get back to working on getting those concerts prepped. So, Stephen, thank you very much. Real pleasure to speak with you.
Yeah, likewise.
And hopefully we'll see you at the concerts.